just on that, I think that doesn't deserve a round of applause. I'm just curious. So we say there are 3 or 4 of us young organizations. I'll give you some background. A couple of weeks ago, I was at a gathering where it was mentioned that there is, I think, funding that goes into the billions that is out there. But often, because we are small operations, we're not able to attract that level of funding. Are there opportunities or are there instances where you say, okay, I know More Angels is over there, Farah is over there, and Monica is over there. Perhaps we bring them together. Do you ever recommend those sort of collaborations where you see visions aligning and you try and bring these organizations together?
Thanks, that's a very good question. So what we are doing is that, let me just provide a little bit of background here. One of the things that philanthropy community has observed is that a lot of their funding goes global north, and there's nothing wrong with that. It has its own history, right? But some of the money is actually intended for global south. Unfortunately, it has to travel north first before it comes to south. And we know the reason why, because the argument is we don't have reputable, strong institutions in Africa that can manage large volumes of money. So as philanthropy community and the Oak Foundation, we commissioned what we call a Global South Scoping Study to identify those organizations in the Global South that we think we can use as intermediaries. So intermediaries simply giving money to them to give to smaller ones. So I think that's something that also needs to be pursued at this time. And it answers the question of how do we support a community-based organization which we might not trust to the level of giving them the amount of money that they need. It will go through the intermediate. So we have got Trust Africa, as an example. Maliasili is another fund that's working in Africa, Agroecology Fund, another one where organizations like Oak can put their money. Of course, the agreement is you will grant the money to other smaller organizations. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Mr. Kukochuma, if you allow me to come back to you. For the most part, when we think local government, a lot of people are thinking distribution of land, they're thinking amenities, water, electricity, and things like that. I think we often limit you to that sort of space. But when you look at it, what role do local governments, and I believe it's a big one, do local governments play in the actual conservation work that is before us?
Okay, thank you so much, Angela. I think as local government at district level, we are in charge of the local authority, that is the Rural District Council. So at the Rural District Council, our main task is to make resolutions, bylaws, and all the related stuff that create a conducive space for the operation of all organizations that are into conservation, that are into humanitarian work. So basically that is our job as a local government, to create a conducive space for organizations to work with us harmoniously. And then we also have the mandate also of ensuring that everybody who's working with us is in a conducive environment. There's a safe and conducive environment for all the organizations that work with us in Nyami Nyami. That is our role. We ensure that we provide them with all the enablers, that is maybe roads, they have access if they want to go to Nekande, to Mola, the roads are trafficable. If they want to talk to the people, to the chiefs, to the various leaders within the district, it is our role to make sure that all the work that they need to do is done harmoniously. And then also the issue of human wildlife conflict, it is also our role as local government to identify the organizations like WCA whom we can work with to reduce I'm glad to report to this gathering that with the coming in of WCA, so far our rates of human-wildlife conflict are going down gradually. We will get there. We are not there, but we will definitely can get there. So that's a plus for us. We are quite happy, we are quite elated that at least in terms of saving the human lives, in terms of even saving the wild animals, because we are not only concerned about humans, but we are also concerned about the animals that we should coexist with in Kariba district. We are all safe, we are being taught ways of living with the animals harmoniously. And then also our job also is as the local government is to advocate for a relief fund for the victims of human-wildlife conflict. In Nyami, the statistically for this year, I think we've lost about 5 lives. People who were attacked by animals in various spaces. But we are saying as local government, through the council, through WCA, we are trying to push and advocate to the central government to make sure that those victims are compensated. And also we are trying as much as possible through the chiefs to educate people so that we reduce the incidences of loss of human life to such incidences. So basically, that is our job as a local government. We work mostly through the council and various other stakeholders. We have Zimpax, Mr. Stoll and his staff, they are here from Matusadona. We work together as a community. We are a community of Kariba with a common interest. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Now, Monica, before we conclude, you spoke earlier about how some organizations need assistance in amplifying their voices. And it also applies to the Zimbabwean landscape in general. We need to be telling the Zimbabwean story, we need to be telling the Zimbabwean conservation story. But from where you sit, what does a successful, a good Zimbabwean story look like?
Thank you, Frey. That's a big question. And I think we each share a vision of what that looks like. And I'm quite biased because I work with local organizations and communities, and I see the big role that they can play. First, I would like to say in terms of success, I think Zimbabwe has done really well in conservation. We don't often give ourselves a pat on the shoulders, but the populations of some of the charismatic species that we have in the country, they're doing well. We have a huge population of elephants that people are talking about globally. People are talking about elephants that they actually don't have. And we have that wildlife. So I'll say in terms of the resource itself, the wildlife itself, we still have a great chance of registering more success in that dimension. The second thing I'll say, and which ties to what you're asking, is the story of the Zimbabwean story of conservation. In August, we had our CEO go through Zim. You know the image of Zim outside in terms of conservation. And his reflections at the end, we went to Matusadona, spent a night there, we went to Chizarira, we proceeded to Wang, and all the way to Victoria Falls. You can see the impact and the appreciation that people have for the resource that we hold as a country. So I'll go to what I think in terms of success. We really need to strengthen the grassroots level of conservation. We have great custodians. We saw NOMSA, the community guardian. They can articulate conservation sometimes better than us sitting in Harare anywhere else. So we need to strengthen local organizations. When I think about success, we have strengthened local organizations, strengthened communities that can articulate what they're doing, the success that they're registering in their communities, and that overall visibility for that kind of space, and where people are the true custodians of wildlife. They benefit from the wildlife. They're the ones leading in the conservation of wildlife. I would say say, would have gotten at a stage where I start talking about success there.
So success is possible.
It is.
Oh.
It is, definitely.
Definitely. Veronica, just before I close with you as well, as we are talking about achieving the success, going back to the grassroots, we've spoken about what we need to do in terms of unlocking that financing and getting the funds flowing to the people that matter. If you were to be asked unique challenges that apply to the Zimbabwean landscape that we might need to tackle in order for us to work towards this success, what are some of the things we need to look at and work on?
Thank you very much. I think some of the issues are really the macroeconomic issues. But one thing that I like that she has already alluded to is who is telling the Zimbabwean story, who is defining the conservation discussion and narrative for Zimbabwe. That on its own, when you talk of the anchor vision of conservation in Zimbabwe, once we are able to articulate it and bring and build the needed confidence, because the person who is telling the story is the one who then determines how the story ends. So if we are able to really convince people out there that Zimbabwe is the best destination, Zimbabwe has the best wildlife, Zimbabwe is a go-to country, it has the warmest people, the loving people, the best weather. Climate is changing, but in Zimbabwe, you still find yourself in the best of the climates globally. So you are able to create that narrative for Zimbabwe. And I think that is what we need to be doing, to tell the story. I was impressed with what I saw here. And I'm saying, where is it documented? Who is taking the story out there? Because that's exactly what we're looking for. And that is what attracts partners. So we need to be building those issues and taking the information out there. And then using the platforms that exist to really build opportunities that exist. And then also talking of innovative financing around how do we unlock carbon market opportunities. These are novel issues, but we have experts. Where are they sitting? So those are the issues that we really need to be fleshing out, and then looking at the needed partnerships. Who is the project developer? Who are the communities? Who is building the capacities of the communities? Because he said they don't want audited statements, but they are important for accountability. I always say money is a trust game. Money being a trust game, it means I can trust you without the track record from a philanthropic angle, and I'll give you the resources. But at the end of the day, I will also want to come back and see that what you said you were going to do, you did. So that is very important. So the aspect of capacity building, even right up to community level, where they understand their roles and responsibilities in terms of managing the carbon. Because somebody was like, are you saying this A can be, so it's an intangible asset, and it's very difficult to really account for it. So you then need to explain to them to say, for each to be a premium carbon, what is the role of the community? So the aspect of capacity building across the entire value chain, right from community level up to the project developer and the national government, we can never overemphasize that. And then if you look at impact investing as well, what are the opportunities that exist in impact investing? Investing has really transformed over time. When it started, we were focusing on return. Then later we started to focus on return and risk. But now when we look at investments, we're now focusing on return, risk, and environmental and social safeguards. So we need to also demonstrate the environmental and social elements with clarity in our investments. And I think that is a very important discourse, because it also then gives us the opportunity to diversify our investments as well. Because I'm looking at opportunities like debt for nature swaps. How do they look like? I talked about nature thematic fund under climate financing. I talked about transitional financing. So all these are emerging funding mechanisms, the results-based payments funding mechanisms, or pay as you deliver, or funding mechanisms. So these are opportunities and innovative funding mechanisms that are emerging and which we have potential to tap into. But for us to be able to address and be effective in tapping into those funding mechanisms, it will take capacity building, knowledge management, and also to be intentional about pursuing some of these resources. So I think largely that is what we need. And the blended financing structure really calls everyone, because that's why it's blended. So it means the development community has a role to play, the partners have a role to play, and government has a role to play, and the private sector has a role to play. And within the blended financing opportunities, then we are able to really structure the mechanisms that exist. Because what we are doing is we are de-risking any investment at any particular time with the amount and the type of financing that is required. So where grant financing is required, those who are eligible and have access to grant, they put their funding in. And then those who believe they are equity and concessional or subordinated loan funders, then they put where it is needed. So we need to really understand the entire conservation financial landscape and the opportunities that exist within the emerging opportunities of climate finance, carbon markets, nature finance, and be intentional about it. Thank you very much.
I almost feel like I need an entire day with you. Simply because I'm sitting here and I'm imagining a number of young people or people in communities wanting to start organizations within organizations, and with so many opportunities, but that needs to be unpacked. Because I think, like Monica said, a lot of the times it's passion that leads somebody to want to get involved or to want to start an organization. But there's so much more of this to learn. And I do feel like maybe one day we'll do an entire day where it's just unpacking all of this and people identifying with which roots work best for them. But anyway, that's a discussion for another day.
May I be excused? Thank you.
Thank you so much for your contribution. Please, a round of applause for Veronica. Our final question before we go to questions from the floor, Dr. Zazu, I think just in closing, as you have dealt with implementing organizations, community organizations, what do you often say to them, or what advice do you give to them in order for them to achieve sustainable impact?
Thanks for that question, and I'll answer it with a very short story, right, of tourists who came from a country, I'm not mentioning any country. They visited Binga, and one of the things that they saw which unsettled them is that most of the women they bumped into had no bras. So, with good intentions, they went back, mobilized resources in the form of bras. After a month, a Land Cruiser, heavily loaded, found its way to Binga. Right? The communities were gathered. And of course, in Africa we don't say no. They accepted the bras. 6 months down the line, when they went for M&E, they were surprised. They were still not wearing bras. But some of the things that they bumped into is the same bras were used to tie firewood, collecting firewood. So, I mean, that's for me a very exciting story. And my advice to people working with communities on the ground, big or small, is that operate below the waterline. Right? Don't deal with the things that you only see, because often you are dealing with symptoms. And this is where the money gets wasted now, because we are just dealing with the symptom. The actual cause is not given attention. Then to small organizations that are emerging, like WCA, I have read your strategy, I enjoyed it. You want to expand, but be very cautious, because bigger is not always best. You can be as small as you are, do the work you are doing, but do it well. Right? That's my second type of advice. Then lastly, and just to re-emphasize, start by building a VW before a limo. Right? Again, be patient with yourself. And just make sure that whatever you are doing, you do it well at that scale. Don't rush yourself to double the budget, double the number of staff, because sometimes that's not what brings sustainability. Thank you.
Thank you to all my panelists, and do we have any questions for any of our panelists?
Thank you very much to all the panelists. Very rich discussions that we are having, and a lot to learn. I'm intrigued by Dr. Zazu's submissions on philanthropic funding. I wonder, how much are we doing to channel African philanthropists towards conservation? So if I look at maybe the biggest philanthropists in Africa, the likes of our very own Masiwa, Dangote, Patrice Motsepe, a lot of their funding does not really go to conservation. My question maybe is, how much are we doing to sort of shift that funding towards conservation? Or is it a question of a hierarchy of importance? Maybe conservation is somewhere lower on that, and whether or not we are doing enough to make sure that it is recognized as something that is important to our very own philanthropists. And I'm saying this based on the decolonization of conservation agenda, where we want funding from here, from Africa, to benefit Africans. Thanks.
I saw that question coming from the young man, but the answer is it's work in progress. And I'll tell you what I think is the problem and the weakness at the moment. The Africa as a continent hasn't put in place what I call the ecosystem infrastructure to determine and influence how rich people like Masiwa and Dangote can actually use their money in a way that's more, inclusive and also diverse. Because Oak Foundation, by luck, is in Europe, and the ecosystem infrastructure is there that guides them in terms of how to use the money. So, and there is a lot of traction. I'm sure we have what we call African Philanthropy Network, which is, a grouping of people from Africa, universities included, that are also talking about decolonizing philanthropic funding by leveraging, rich people like Dangote here, but they are also busy researching and putting into place policies and mechanisms that allow Dangote to do better, so that in his funding, it just doesn't go one direction, it can go to other direction. So it's a question of the absence of a guiding ecosystem than anything else. Not that he doesn't, appreciate the environment, he does. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Do we have any other questions? Off there in the back.
Thank you so much. Good day to you. My question pertains to the movement from the accountability-based approach to trust-based approach in terms of funding. So maybe can you share and unpack the mechanisms which allows those who want to apply funding but using the model of trust-based? As you know, maybe in the accountability approach, there's a set of information one is to provide so that they do qualify for the funds which are available. But for this new emerging approach of trust-based one, how can an entity be in a position to know that they can, of course, qualify to be funded under that model? And what are the things which they're supposed maybe to put in place so that they do qualify for that?
Thank you once again, and I also want to acknowledge and what Veronica said about accountability. Sure, accountability is needed. We are not throwing it away, but it's for me a balance between just accountability and the total absence of trust. So it's a question of balancing the two, right? And also trust is earned. How is it earned? It's earned by the work that you do, which, like Moniba is saying, you need to make visible. So as Oak Foundation, the way we fund is, we don't normally call for proposals. We get to know of organizations either from their LinkedIn pages or from colleagues like Moniba, and then we open a conversation with them to learn more about the work they are doing, where there is strategic alignment between what they are doing and what Oak wants to support. We pursue that conversation until we formalize a relationship. And the idea of trust is coming from this, emphasis on making it easy to get the funds and not making it too hectic. I've worked in the development sector for a while. I know what it takes to do a proposal. Some proposals can be very lengthy, like a thesis, but I'll give an example. Our longest proposal is 8 pages. Right? Why? Because we trust. Because we've talked to this person and we like the work they do and we think it's good. So there's no need for them to say, right, this is okay. Right? It does save them time. That's where trust. When it comes to reporting, we know people are busy doing the work that they are so passionate about. So we shy away from asking for monthly meetings, for quarterly reports. We will say report at the end of the year and report at impact level. And often it's to guide the particular organization doing the work. They are not doing the work for us. Like, that's the difference in the shift. And I know the person who has asked the question, know of other funders who actually wants a monthly meeting or a quarterly update, and they also want a report. That's very detailed. That's the shift. And I'm not saying one is bad or better than the other, but I'm just saying in the mix of funding, this is what philanthropic funding looks like. Right? That's what it looks like. That's how I want to answer this question.
Thank you so much. Do we have any more questions?
Thank you very much. It's a very rich and interesting discussion indeed. When the panelists were discussing, I liked the options that they shared on, funding for conservation. And one of the things was the innovation around entrepreneurship. It really got me to be thinking in our Zimbabwean context. When we're moving around the tables, the presenters were talking about, can you assist us with 64,000 our yearly budget? We need a bus, we need a board, we need this and that. And I was just thinking, when you think of entrepreneurship when you start, it can really make you tired before you start. I don't know, this is just a thought. The panelists can just respond.
I think it's funny. What do you for starters, Nikki? Do you want to speak into that?
Well, I'll speak a little bit. That's Dr. Zazo and Veronica's space, I guess. But we also work inside, we have a conservation fund, so just a little bit on that. I think Zimbabwe is challenging. Like, you are right. Like, in terms of the business environment, so many people who are doing ecotourism businesses, they tell you about, like, we see the beauty of a lodge outside, and we think they are raking in money, especially the luxury lodges. I've spoken to a number, and they tell you the figures. You're like, okay. So definitely challenging. I think one of the things that I see for small local organizations, they need a place to start. So to be able to leverage and grow even some of the entrepreneurial ideas that they have. I'll give you an example. For example, WCA, they're talking chili farming inside the climate, smart livelihoods. Those businesses, to be able to set them up in the remote areas that they're working, get a market that will give them competitive prices to be able to make a profit. That's a really long journey. And so many non-profits have been on that journey for a long time, of like non-timber forest products, for example, sapphire and we have seen that it takes so much time. So for me, having funders that are aligned with some of our thinking, like Oak Foundation, is great, because you give these ideas a starting point. You trust them because they don't have the long history that other entrepreneurs and businesses have. Get them started and move on the journey where they will learn the entrepreneurship journey and sustainability for the enterprises that they want to set up.
Thank you so much. And that was it. Okay, one final question.
Okay, thank you. So I'm more of a communications person, and you've spoken about how we tell our conservation stories, and I was just trying to find out from you, Monica, since you spoke specifically around that area, and I was taking some notes of you speaking, but the narrative towards actually securing funding towards conservation. How can we actually shape the narrative? And also starting to move away and reframing the continent's conservation narrative, shifting from deficit-oriented communication and more to solutions-focused approaches. We do have the resources. We do have the majority of what we need. They're not supposed to come and tell us how we tell our stories. So how can we start reshaping them and actually impact for more funding into conservation?
Thank you for the question. I think, again, I'll go back to articulating, like really articulating the things that we want to do and the impact that is going to deliver. For example, I'll think about a lady who was sharing in a platform at New York Climate Week. She was so ready with figures. So she was talking about the work that they're doing. She's with the Kenya Wildlife Conservancies Association. And after every story about what they want to do and their goals for the next 5 years, she was articulating that well and putting a figure on it, giving a clearer picture. Funders want to know impact. It's great to break it down, to really communicate what you want to do. That's the foundation, for example, that we've built for WCA. What is it that you want to do? So many organizations, they take the long route to get to that point. Their story is not succinct. So I think in terms of telling what you want to do as an organization, before I go to the bigger story of Zimbabwe, be really clear, like what are your goals, what does it look like over 10 years, what is the ultimate vision, because you can break it down, 5, 10, eventually what you want to do maybe as collaboration, feeding into what other people are doing. So let's talk about what we want to do, what's possible, what are the opportunities, and what do we need what resources do we need to be able to get there more clearly. And in terms of communicating on Zimbabwe, I think it's growing. I love the social media space. I'm everywhere, TikTok, Instagram and stuff. And I see what other young people and organizations are doing on social media for their countries and for example, East Africa. They do so well, you'd think that going again to populations, you think that they're the largest populations of some of the species that we have here. We haven't done a great job of cultivating communication for conservation. So I'm glad that you are in that space and many other actors. Let's do better, let's go in these spaces, let's share our stories. A community guardian in Nyami Nyami, a day in the life of a community guardian, all those things that just bring a positive spin, because it's there, it's not even spinning actually. The stories are there, let's identify them. Let's bring more visibility inside the work that we do as organizations, but more broadly for the communities and the conservation space in the country.
Thank you so much. Please help me thank my panelists this afternoon. As I release them, thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. This is one of our good news stories, because Zimpact tells us that we had of the human wildlife conflict-related deaths that we had last year, a number were crocodile-related deaths. So platform that he can share his story and also impact other people is really commendable. Now, before we close, we would like to hear from some of our community guardians. Saka, I'm going to call Charles Charinga and Nomsa Bafana, as well as Munashe Tauno, to just give us a little brief on their day-to-day.
Thank you very much. I think it's already afternoon, so good afternoon, everyone. I am Charles Charinga, community guardian from Nyaminyami. I have been with the WCA Wildlife Conservation Action since 2021. So I know better about the community, about our work in Nyaminyami, than the community guardians who joined me later. But nevertheless, we always share the same information because we value teamwork. So I'll start from the previous videos that have been shared, particularly the previous one about Chance Jera. Yeah, that is a true case of what happened to our fellow community member who wasn't listening to advices from the community guardians on never to cross flooded rivers or to avoid TB waters in the community. Since the area he resides is so much infested with the crocodiles, it's very unfortunate that he learned the lesson in a painful way. But right now, Charles Shengera, from the promise on the video, he is living his ways. He is educating the community on the bad aspects of crossing flooded rivers and venturing out at night without lights, like what he said in the video. So we still have people like Charles Shengera in our community. So it is our duty as community guardians. We promise we are going to soldier on, we educate them, and at the end, I'm sure we are going to be on the same platform. They will have to understand and avoid human-wildlife conflicts at all costs. That is our goal. So, taking you through our daily activities as community guardians, I would like to start by outlining what we do in the morning on each typical day. As a community guardian, we take patrols around our community boundaries, taking note of wildlife threats, particularly the animals, the problem animals like hyenas, elephants, lions. We take note of the spores, the areas we have noted these spores, and we monitor the wildlife movements within our communities. This information we share with the community as we interact with them during our day-to-day runnings. We share with them, we advise them on the areas they should avoid. For example, they need to avoid some areas in heading their livestock or conducting their daily activities. This information in the long run can be used after analyzing to identify the conflict hotspot areas where the animals frequently visit, and as an organization, mitigation measures can be implemented in that area. If that area needs workshops or anything that can help the community better, that can be as a result of our findings from the occupants or transacts patrols. As community guardians, we also attend to reports of human-wildlife conflicts in our communities. This is a duty we take with seriousness so as to identify the conflict species and the affected victims. We have a mandate to have the correct information so that the community can be correctly informed to make good decisions about what is happening in the community. After we have gathered all the necessary data like the household affected, the GPS, the date and time we take time to sit down with the farmer or the affected person and give recommendations as to avoid further losses. So this is something we do in view that there should be less incidences in the future. We are also working with the farmers and encouraging them to construct raised crops for small livestock like goats. A raised crop is a crop that is suspended, that has been built above the ground, it's suspended from a platform. Maybe we can say some stilts. So we advise them to construct the raised crop beyond the reach of most predators, maybe about 1.7, 1.8 meters above ground. Then the crop is a detachable ladder, which means after crawling the goats or the livestock, the farmers can detach the ladder, making it impossible for predators to gain access into the crop. So we are so glad as a team of community guardians. So far we have been working and ensuring that in each and every community guardians community, 2 raised crows are built each month. So a team of 38 guardians in a year, if we are successful, that translates to 456 raised crows being constructed in Nyaminyami. So in a period of 4 to 5 years, I think we have done a lot of work in the community. So also we have to announce to the house that we as community guardians, we have dedicated ourselves to help the less privileged ones, preferably the aged, the chronically ill, and we take the responsibility of cutting poles and ensuring that the poles are erected and ready for use. So those are some of the activities that we do as community guardians. So while we are compiling data and capturing everything that we are doing in the community, we do have a smart application that has been installed in our phone. SMART stands for Spatial Monitoring and Reporting Tool. This tool has made our work easier in the sense that there is less paperwork involved. It is easier to keep track of your activities on that particular day. Even the data managers can have a quick access to supervise or monitor your achievements on that particular day. They can just check on the time you started your patrol. If you rested, it indicates you have rested at this particular time. Your results are easily accessed on SMART. So I think SMART helped us a lot. Like I said, ladies and gentlemen, we work as a team. I can't exist all because we are a team. So I leave something for my team members to add. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Standing in front of you is the girl answer to the name Non Sabafan. I work under WCA in Nyaminyami Ward 10 as a community guardian. I joined WCA last year, December. Then, firstly, I want to talk about my background. At first, I didn't join the WCA. I'm the one that I can lose litter everywhere. But when I joined the WCA, my mindset can change because I can now know the litter should be in the bin. Outline our daily basis duties. The first duty that I do is also my colleague Charles tells us. The first thing in the morning, we can go to community boundaries, searching for animals. For example, there is an animal or a predator that enters in the community. Then when I have the details, I can share to my community to alert them when there is any danger or any predator animal that enters in our community. And also to share to our community rangers so that, especially when there is any impact of electoral funds, we can share to game rangers, and also another daily duty we can do crow assessment. On crow assessment, we were looking about the feasibility of the crow, how the feasibility is. The crow should be less visible to prevent our livestock from predators, and also the crow should be straight paws, and also the height should be high to avoid the predators to be in our crows. Then the third one, our duty is head assessment. On head assessment, we go to our pastures to see how the livestock are grazing, or there is any predators, or the livestock have the headers, or they don't have. If they have headers, we can teach the headers to collect their livestock after all they finished to graze their livestock. They don't leave them, because when they leave them in the pastures, the predators, they come and harm their livestock. I think that's all I can share tonight.
I'm National from Mire RTC Community Guiding. I'm happy to share with you some of the community guidance duties. We do head assessment such as crow assessment and spore checking. Head assessment is all about monitoring livestock movement and heading practices within the community. We encourage farmers to head their livestock to reduce animal predation, livestock animal predation, educating them to twadzidza zvekare kuti zvipfuwo zvavo zvinofanira kunge zvichivharirwa pamazuva ose. Kana vakange vachizvivharira vachifudza vachiona kuti zvoni pamusha pane matanga akanaka kuvaka matanga zvinotibatsira kuti zvoni zvipfuwo zvedu zvichengeteke. Tichitarisa kumbire vabereki vaimbosirira zvipfuwo zvichindogara kumafuro sechirimo vanoti kusairira. Izvo zvaikonzera kuti zvipfuwo zvinyanye kuparadzwa nemhuka dzemusango. Asi nokuda kweWCA patakatanga project tichiita maawareness, varimi vakuvharira zvipfuwo zvavo, vakufudza zvipfuwo zvavo, vakugadzira matanga. Zvaita kuti matambudziko ekubatwa kwezvipfuwo ange anodzikira. Zvaizvozvo zvipfuwo zvakuchengeteka. Even kana tikaita macro assessment, tikataura navo kuti danga rinofanira kunge richireduce visibility, vanozvinzwisisa, vari kukwanisa kutsvaga mapango akasimba nokumacherera. Tichivadzidzisawo kuti kana muchizonocherera anofanira kunge depth yacho iri about 0.7. Zvinotibatsira kuti mhuka hadzizogona kupusha mapango iwayo kana mombe kuzosunda mapango dzichipasa. Haiti yacho inofanira kuva about 1.7 and above. Zvinoredusa kuti zvone zvipuka zvisapinde mukati. Izvo zvose vanozvinzwisisa. Kana tikaona maspores emhuka dzakaita seshumba, mbada, mapere, tinovaleta kuti vazive kuti munharaunda medu mune maspores emhuka idzodzo dzapinda. Tichivakurudzirawo zvekare kupfuya imbwa dzinotibatsira kuvaleta even pamusha pakasvika mapere. Vobudawo nemalights zvinoita kuti zvone mapere aya adzirike. Asi kana pasinawo imbwa vanozoona makuseni zvone panapa pangosvika mapere. Saka ndozvimwe zvatiri kuita tichibatsirana navabereki. Kana vakanzi vasangana nedambudziko ravasangana naro, tine guku ratakagadzira kuti vanotizivisa, tonoatenda sini nokukasika. Toita kuti zvone vange vane ruzivo uyezve vatinoshanda navo vagone kunzwisisa kuti vatibatsirewo pamatambudziko atinosangana navo. Izvo zvose tikuzviita through WCA tichibatsirana nevabereki.
As we close, ladies and gentlemen, it's been an absolutely fantastic day. I think we have all come out of here really impacted by the work that WCA is doing. Since 2019, they have come far, and we're excited to see over the next 4 years as they've launched their strategic plan, where they're going, and we hope we will all be part of this great Zimbabwean story. to give us our closing remarks this afternoon, I think I would also request another round of applause for this gentleman as he comes up, Mr. Sibarashe Chatikobo, who is the Human Wildlife Conflict Mitigation Program. Specifically because since 2019 he bought into the vision, he is still here and he is still going, and we really appreciate loyalty like that.
Thank you so much. It's an honor. It has been an amazing day. It's been an exciting day. So happy for everyone who's here, and this opportunity that I've been given for closing remarks. So I think first of all, we would like to recognize that there is an urgent need for us to address the challenges that the communities that we work with and the wildlife face in terms of sharing the same landscape in face of climate change. But even though we see that there is a problem, we are optimistic about the future of wildlife conservation and the power of collaboration. I think this room is evidence of that. Many of the faces that I see here, they know someone from WCA, and they are kind of the contact that got him here, but then they saw other people here. So everyone was involved in bringing this amazing group of people here, which is evidence of collaboration. So we urge you to remain engaged with WCA, to remain committed to this cause, so that we can uplift the standard of life for the vulnerable communities that share the space with the wildlife that we seek to conserve. We would like to call for collective efforts in terms of implementing the interventions that reduce human-wildlife conflict, retaliatory killings, and wildlife intolerance. I think it's clear to everyone that this is something that cannot be done by one person, and we hope that seeing this inspires everyone to see how they can also contribute to it, so that as a group we can do amazing things together. As we come to the end of this momentous occasion, I would like to express my deepest gratitude to each and every one of you for joining us today. I think from the introductions, we all heard that we've got important people here. They have important things that they have to attend to every day, but they gave us this time here, and we value that you did that. You did that for us, and we really appreciate it. We hope that you have some key things that you are going to take away again from today. Your commitment to our shared vision for the future, for our wildlife and vulnerable communities is truly inspiring to us. And we hope you can take that inspiration together with us and spread it like a fire everywhere. The strategic plan that was unveiled today is a living blueprint for lasting impact that we can do in the conservation landscape together. Please take note of living blueprint and that we can do. Living, it means that we can keep working on it together and improving it, and it means that your efforts, your conversations, your inputs, they are also valued in making this true and bringing it to life. As we move forward, let us remember that the journey ahead will require unwavering commitment, it will require hard work, it will definitely require perseverance. But we know that together we can navigate the challenges and seize all the opportunities that come or lie before us, knowing that our collective actions in this room and beyond are going to make a profound difference. Lastly, thank you once again for joining us in celebrating this significant milestone. We look forward to working alongside you as we bring the strategies and the objectives of our strategic plan to fruition. So thank you so much. Tatenda, Siyabonga. Thank you.